They say that doing good is always praiseworthy, but what if not every act of kindness holds the same value in the eyes of God? Have you ever stopped to consider that sometimes what seems right might be done with the wrong motivation? What's the point of helping someone if deep down the intention is to be seen, applauded, or recognized? The question that lingers is, did Jesus want to show us that there's something far deeper than the mere appearance of virtue? Imagine the weight of this. Reflection. How many times, without realizing it, do we seek the approval of people more than God's? Aren't we often trading the true reward for the fleeting illusion of human applause? If this feels uncomfortable, it's because it touches a sensitive spot, our hidden motives. But it's precisely in this discomfort that the key to a transformation that can change everything lies. You'll see how Jesus brought a completely counterintuitive perspective on what it means to be righteous and upright. You'll discover why he issued such a strong warning and what this has to do with faith, practical life, and your role as a chosen one. Isn't it curious how something so noble can become a trap? Jesus knew that generosity, prayer, and fasting, when done for show, turn into a cheap spectacle. He made it clear, it's no use raising your hands or opening your mouth if your heart is set on seeking applause. Faith isn't measured by likes or claps, but by genuine intimacy with God. The danger lies precisely in turning the sacred into a performance. He spoke as one who knew the human heart. The temptation to display holiness has always haunted humanity. Who hasn't caught themselves trying to show others how righteous they are? But in that pursuit, the essence is lost. The chosen one, who desires to walk in the light, must understand that true greatness lies in the hidden, where only God sees. It's in that silence that authenticity is revealed. Imagine someone who gives money to a person in need, but makes sure to post it on every social media platform. Deep down, the reward has already been received, a few fleeting compliments. Jesus teaches that there's something far greater available, but only for those who forgo the spotlight. The call is to a relationship that doesn't need an audience, but grows in simplicity. It's at this point that a concept emerges that shifts the entire perspective. The word Jesus used, dikaiosune, goes beyond what we usually think of as justice. It's not just about doing what's right, but living in harmony with God and others. It's like the invisible foundation that sustains a fulfilling life. This justice doesn't fit in masks or mechanical acts. It must overflow from within. It's an invitation to live without ulterior motives. What's fascinating is that this kind of justice can't be faked. It reveals itself in the small things, in respect for others, in patience with those who fail, in humility toward those who err. It's not a performance, it's real life. Those who seek dikaiosune learn that every sincere act of kindness resonates before God, even if no one else sees it. It's faith becoming daily practice. When Jesus highlighted this idea, he was showing that true transformation begins in the heart. It's no use building a perfect facade if pride and vanity lurk within. The chosen one is called to cultivate a spirit that reflects the divine essence without needing to prove anything to anyone. Thus, justice becomes something alive, building bridges instead of walls. And in this context, he pointed to the practices already known to the Jews of his time, but with an entirely different perspective. Back then, every Jew knew that generosity, prayer, and fasting were hallmarks of a respectable spiritual life. They were like pillars upholding the people's identity before God. But Jesus made it clear that the issue wasn't what was done, but why it was done. A religious act devoid of sincerity was nothing more than lifeless tradition, a mechanical ritual without substance. He showed that even valuable customs could lose their power when the heart sought only recognition. The act meant to draw one closer to God ended up becoming a social bargaining chip. Jesus revealed that faith couldn't be reduced to public ceremonies, but needed to be nourished in secret. The meaning of these practices lies in the motivation, not in how often they're repeated. Whether giving alms, praying, or fasting, everything had to spring from a genuine desire to connect with the Creator. The chosen one understands that spirituality doesn't depend on perfect rituals, but on an upright heart. And it was precisely here that Jesus exposed the greatest risk of all: when wrong intentions rob the value of an act that, in itself, seemed right. It's frightening to think that someone can do everything right and still miss the point. Jesus denounced the tendency to seek applause instead of divine approval. After all, what's the reward for those who act this way? Just the fleeting satisfaction of being noticed. Nothing is more deceptive than believing human recognition is enough to fill the heart's void. The danger lies in confusing prestige with spirituality. A person might convince themselves they're pleasing God when, in reality, they're only building an image for others. This kind of motivation is treacherous because it first deceives the one who practices it. Faith gets diluted, and the relationship with the Creator takes a back seat, as if it were an irrelevant detail. Jesus opened the eyes of his listeners to show that the true reward comes only from him. Those who seek fame have already received the most they could, a few passing compliments. But those who choose to live by faith without needing the spotlight experience an eternal reward. Thus, he invites us to look beyond appearances and realize that something infinitely greater awaits those brave enough to live in secret. Some spend their lives chasing praise, as if every word of approval were a trophy. But Jesus showed that this is a cheap reward, as fragile as the passing wind. The true value isn't in what others say, but in what God sees in the depths of the heart. When someone acts with sincerity, they build deep bonds with the Creator and others, something no audience can offer. Those who prefer applause trade gold for trinkets. They get something quick but empty. But those who choose silence find a wealth that transforms the heart. This is the reward that doesn't depend on likes, status, or fame, but on a life renewed by faith. And to make this teaching even clearer, Jesus brought a practical example that touches everyday life. He spoke of generosity in an almost ironic way, as if some needed trumpets to announce their donations. It was a harsh but spot-on critique. Indeed, many made a point of being seen while helping the poor, turning charity into theater. The problem wasn't in the act of giving, but in the desire to be exalted by the surrounding crowd. In practice, this remains relevant. Some make sure to document every charitable act for others to see. But Jesus showed that true generosity is born in silence, in the act that doesn't need to be proven or publicized. When the intention is pure, the heart connects with God, and it's in that secret space that he pours out his reward. But there was something even more serious that Jesus needed to denounce: the hypocrisy that corrodes from within. Hypocrisy is a heavy word, but Jesus used it fearlessly to describe those who made faith a mask. The term came from Greek theater, where actors hid their faces behind artificial figures. He showed that doing good just to be seen makes a person nothing more than an actor on a stage, and the result? A life that seems authentic on the outside, but is empty within. This attitude is dangerous because it deceives others, but above all, the one who practices it. The heart gets used to the idea that appearing is enough, while the bond with God weakens. It's like living on a lit stage, but coming home to face the silence of a dissatisfied soul. With his clarity, Jesus showed that this path doesn't lead to fullness, but to an illusory reward. When generosity becomes a performance, the reward is already given, fleeting applause. But what's lost is far greater: the chance to experience true communion with the Creator. The chosen one must stay vigilant to avoid falling into this trap, as it seems harmless but undermines the foundations of faith. That's why Jesus proposed a completely opposite path, one of discretion and secrecy. Instead of seeking a stage, Jesus invited his followers to walk the path of secrecy. He used a powerful metaphor, that the left hand shouldn't know what the right hand does. This shows the level of purity expected, a generosity so natural it needs no publicity, only sincerity. In this hidden place, only God sees, and from him comes the true reward. This contrast is revolutionary because it shifts the focus from appearance back to the heart. Doing good in silence frees us from the burden of comparison and the desire for recognition. It's in this space of humility that faith grows authentically, without needing masks. The chosen one learns to walk lightly, knowing that the value of their actions doesn't depend on human eyes, but on the divine gaze. From this secrecy springs a reward no applause could offer. Nothing is more precious than experiencing God's presence in the depths of the heart. Jesus showed that this is the greatest prize of a generous life, a direct connection with the Creator's heart. It's not about receiving applause or being recognized as a model of goodness, but about participating in God's work of renewal. It's in this secret place that faith is strengthened and the soul finds true rest. The reward of generosity isn't material, but spiritual. It shapes character, transforms the worldview, and frees us from the pressure to please others. Every act done in silence becomes a seed planted in the garden of eternity. The chosen one understands that this harvest doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on the intimacy built with God. It's an invisible but real treasure. When someone gives with humility, without seeking the spotlight, they experience a joy that can't be bought. This joy doesn't fade with time. On the contrary, it grows with every act of sincerity. Jesus revealed that this is the path to inner fullness, where generosity isn't a duty, but a natural reflection of a heart aligned with the divine. And in speaking of fullness, he opened the door to something even deeper. For Christ, a full life isn't made of external achievements, but of the ability to reflect God's character. When someone gives with love, serves with humility, and acts with sincerity, they become more human in their essence. It's at this point that authentic generosity reveals its greatest power, transforming the person into a mirror of the Creator, a living reflection of the grace they've received. This fullness isn't theoretical, it's practical and daily. It shows up in small choices, forgiving when it's easier to hold a grudge, serving quietly when no one's watching, giving attention to those who are always overlooked. All this builds an upright and meaningful life, where faith ceases to be mere words and becomes a way of life. The chosen one learns that fullness isn't about having more, but being more. And the most beautiful thing is that this journey doesn't need a stage, because the reward is already secured in communion with God. Jesus showed us that living this way is experiencing the freedom of not depending on anyone's approval. It's walking in peace, with the certainty of being aligned with God's will. This is the true fulfillment everyone seeks, even if they don't always know where to find it.